I still check my locker twice before opening it, even now, years later. The memory of that note, its jagged handwriting, the way it seemed to pulse with malice, clings to me like damp air after a storm. It was 2009, my junior year at Lincoln High, a sprawling brick building in a sleepy Ohio suburb where nothing ever happened. Or so I thought. The school smelled of floor wax and teenage sweat, its hallways lined with dented blue lockers and flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. I was 16, awkward, always scribbling in my journal during lunch to avoid the cliques. My life was predictable. Classes, track practice, home to my mom's overcooked casseroles. Until that Wednesday in October, when the note appeared. It was tucked into the slats of my locker, folded into a tight square, like someone didn't want it seen. I'd been late to English, rushing from gym, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. The hallway was empty, the final bell still echoing faintly. I opened my locker, expecting nothing but my crumpled biology textbook, and there it was, a piece of yellowed notebook paper, edges frayed as if torn in a hurry. My name, Ellie, was scrawled across the front in black ink, the letters sharp and uneven, like they were scratched in anger. My stomach twisted. Nobody left notes anymore. Texts were king, even back then. I unfolded it, my fingers trembling, and read the words that would unravel my world. I know what you did last summer. Stop pretending, or you'll regret it. My breath caught in my throat. Last summer? I hadn't done anything worth knowing. I'd worked at the local Dairy Queen, binged Gossip Girl reruns, and hung out with my best friend, Mia, at her family's lake house. The note felt like a prank, but the handwriting was unfamiliar, aggressive, nothing like Mia's loopy cursive or the blocky print of my track teammates. I scanned the empty hallway, the flickering lights casting long shadows that seemed to shift just out of sight. My heart thudded, loud enough to drown out the distant hum of a janitor's vacuum. I shoved the note into my backpack, telling myself it was nothing, but the words burned in my mind. I know what you did. What did they mean? That night, I lay in bed, the note on my nightstand, its presence heavier than the darkness pressing against my window. My room was my sanctuary, posters of Paramore and a corkboard of Polaroids with Mia, but it felt wrong now, like the air was thicker, watching me. I reread the note, searching for clues. The paper smelled faintly of cigarettes, a detail that made my skin crawl. Nobody I knew smoked, not even Mia, who'd fake cough dramatically when her cousin lit up at the lake house. I tried to laugh it off, to tell myself it was a stupid joke, but my mind kept spiraling. What if someone was watching me? What if they knew something I didn't? The next morning, I showed the note to Mia in the cafeteria, her brown eyes widening as she read it. "This is creepy as hell, Ellie," she whispered, her usual sarcasm replaced by something uneasy. "Who'd write this? And what's with last summer? We were inseparable." I nodded, but doubt crept in. Mia had been my shadow since 5th grade, but last summer felt like a blur, late nights by the lake, her cousin's weird friends crashing our bonfires, the way she'd sometimes disappear to make calls. I shook it off. Mia was my rock. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that the note was personal, targeted, like someone had been close enough to smell my strawberry shampoo. Days passed, and the note became an obsession. I started noticing things, footsteps behind me in the empty stairwell, a shadow lingering too long outside the gym. Once, during track practice, I swore I saw someone watching from the bleachers, but when I looked again, they were gone. My grades slipped, I couldn't focus. Every creak in the house, every flicker of the hallway lights, felt like a warning. I stopped sleeping, my dreams filled with faceless figures holding crumpled notes. Mia tried to help, suggesting we tell a teacher, but I refused. What could I say? That a piece of paper was haunting me. I'd sound unhinged. Then, a week later, another note appeared. Same yellowed paper, same jagged handwriting, slipped through the locker slats like a venomous snake. This one read, "You can't hide from the truth, Ellie. Tell her, or I will." My knees buckled. I sank to the floor, the cold linoleum biting through my jeans. Tell who? Tell what? The words felt like a knife, sharp and personal, but I had no secrets, at least, none I could name. My hands shook as I stuffed the note into my backpack, my pulse racing like I'd sprinted a mile. The hallway was silent, but it felt alive, like the walls themselves were watching, waiting for me to crack. I confronted Mia that afternoon, my voice shaking as I showed her the second note. We were in her car, parked outside the school, the air heavy with the smell of her vanilla air freshener. What's going on, Mia? I demanded. You're the only one who knows me this well. Is this about the lake house? Her face paled, her fingers tightening on the steering wheel. Ellie, I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice cracked and her eyes darted away. For the first time, I didn't believe her. The air between us felt thick with dread, like a storm about to break. She promised to help me figure it out, but her words felt hollow, like she was hiding something too. That night, I dug through my journal, desperate for answers. Last summer had been carefree, or so I'd thought. I flipped to July, reading about the lake house, the bonfires, the laughter, the way Mia's cousin, Jake, had brought his sketchy friends from out of town. One night stood out, a memory I'd buried. Mia and I had argued, something rare. She'd been drinking with Jake's friends, her laughter too loud, her eyes too wild. I'd left early, walking home alone through the woods, the path lit only by moonlight. I remembered feeling watched, the crunch of leaves behind me, but I'd brushed it off as paranoia. Now my skin prickled. Had someone followed me? Had I missed something? The notes kept coming, each one worse. The third, you saw it, Ellie. Don't lie to yourself. The fourth, she's not who you think she is. Each one felt like a shard of glass, cutting deeper into my sanity. I stopped eating lunch in the cafeteria, avoided track, and barely spoke to Mia. Her texts went unanswered. Her worried glances in the hallway felt like accusations. I started searching online for clues, scouring old MySpace pages of Jake's friends, looking for anyone who smoked, anyone who might know me. Nothing added up, but the fear grew, a living thing that followed me everywhere. By November, I was a ghost of myself, jumping at shadows, checking my locker obsessively. The fifth note was the worst. It was longer, written in the same angry scrawl. You let it happen, Ellie. You saw her that night, and you walked away. I'm watching you. You'll pay. My heart stopped. The lake house. That night, my mind raced back to the argument, the woods, the feeling of being followed. And then, a memory hit me like a punch. Mia, stumbling by the lake. One of Jake's friends grabbing her arm, her laugh turning sharp, scared. I turned away, angry, assuming she'd handle it. Had something happened? Had I missed it? I confronted Mia again, this time at her house, my voice shaking with rage and fear. What happened that night? I screamed, holding up the note. Who's doing this? What did I miss? Her face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. Ellie, I didn't want you to know, she sobbed. That night, one of Jake's friends, Ryan, he wouldn't leave me alone. I got away, but you were gone. I thought you didn't care. My heart sank as the truth unraveled. She'd been assaulted, and I'd walked away, too angry to notice her fear. The notes weren't about me. They were about her, about my failure to help. But who was sending them? Mia swore she hadn't told anyone, not even Jake. We went to the police, showing them the notes, but they dismissed it as a prank, small-town cops, more interested in coffee than mysteries. I started investigating on my own, retracing that summer. Ryan, one of Jake's friends, had left town abruptly in August. I found his old MySpace page, inactive since July, but a photo caught my eye. Him smoking a cigarette, his handwriting on a caption matching the note's jagged scrawl. My blood ran cold. Had he been watching us? Was he back? One night, I saw him. I was walking home from the library, the streetlights flickering in the fog. A figure stood across the street, tall, hooded, a cigarette glowing like a demon's eye. I froze, my breath visible in the chilly air. He didn't move, just watched, the smoke curling around him like a ghost. I ran, my sneakers pounding the pavement, my heart screaming in my chest. When I looked back, he was gone, but a new note was slipped under my door the next morning. You can't run forever. I was done hiding. With Mia's help, we set a trap. We spread a rumor at school that I'd be at the old track field alone, late, to meet someone. I waited in the bleachers, clutching a flashlight, my phone recording. The air was thick, the silence deafening. Then footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching on the gravel. A figure emerged, Ryan, his face gaunt, his eyes wild. You should have stayed quiet, Ellie, he hissed, stepping closer. My voice shook, but I stood my ground. Why are you doing this? He laughed, a hollow sound. You let her suffer. You both did. Before he could move, Mia's voice cut through the dark. She'd been hiding nearby, calling the police. Sirens wailed, and Ryan bolted, but they caught him 2 streets over. He confessed to the notes, to watching us, driven by guilt and rage over that night. He'd wanted to punish me for not stopping him, for not seeing what he'd done to Mia. The truth was uglier than I'd imagined, but it set us free. Mia and I rebuilt our friendship, slowly, painfully. Therapy helped us both, though the scars lingered. I still check my locker, my door, my shadows. The notes stopped, but their echo haunts me. Who else is watching, waiting, holding secrets I can't see? I learned to listen, to stay, to fight. But some nights, when the wind howls, I wonder if I'm truly safe. I still wake up gasping, certain something's standing at the foot of my bed. It started in the fall of 2011, when I was 19, living in a creaky duplex on the edge of a small Oregon town. The place was cheap, with peeling wallpaper and windows that rattled in the wind, but it was mine, a college freshman's first taste of freedom. My neighborhood was quiet, lined with sagging porches and overgrown lawns, the kind of place where streetlights flickered and dogs barked at nothing. I'd moved there to escape my overbearing parents, to prove I could make it on my own. But by October, I wasn't alone. Something was watching me, every night, and it wasn't human. It began with small things. I'd come home from late shifts at the campus coffee shop, my sneakers crunching on the gravel driveway, and feel a prickle on my neck, like eyes boring into me. I'd turn, expecting a neighbor or a stray cat, but the street was empty, the air heavy with pine and damp earth. Inside, my apartment felt off, too cold, even with the heater cranked, the shadows in the corners too dark, too still. I'd lock the door, double-check the windows, but the feeling never left. At night, I'd lie in bed, the springs creaking under my weight, and hear it, a faint rustle, like fabric dragging across the floor, just beyond my bedroom door. I told myself it was nothing. New place, new noises, just my imagination running wild from too many late-night horror podcasts. I was a skeptic, raised on logic, rolling my eyes at my mom's ghost stories. But logic didn't explain the silhouette. The first time I saw it, I was brushing my teeth, the bathroom mirror fogged from a hot shower. The hallway light flickered, and there it was, a shadow, tall and formless, pressed against the wall outside my door. Not a person, not a shape I could name, just a void that swallowed the light. My toothbrush clattered into the sink. I blinked, and it was gone, but my heart hammered so hard I thought I'd pass out. I checked every inch of the apartment, baseball bat in hand, but found nothing. No footprints, no open windows, just the hum of the fridge and my own ragged breathing. Sleep became a battle. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, the glow of my alarm clock casting a sickly red light. The rustling grew louder, closer, sometimes paired with a faint tapping, like fingers brushing the walls. I started sleeping with the lights on, my old stuffed bear, a childhood relic, clutched like a shield. My friend Sam, who lived across town, laughed when I told him, blaming stress or bad takeout. "You're just freaking yourself out, Riley," he said, tossing me a beer at a campus party. But his grin faded when I showed him the photo I'd taken one night, my phone's flash catching a blur in the hallway. Too tall, too wrong to be a trick of the light. "Dude, move out," he said, but I couldn't afford to. Rent was paid through December, and I was too stubborn to admit defeat. The shadow started appearing every night. Always in the hallway, always just out of reach. I'd wake to that rustling sound, my pulse racing, and see it through the crack of my bedroom door. A darkness that seemed to pulse, like it was breathing. I tried everything. Leaving the radio on, burning sage I bought from a sketchy shop downtown, even praying, though I hadn't since I was 12. Nothing worked. My grades tanked. I was late to every shift, my manager's glare sharper than the coffee grinder. I stopped inviting Sam over, stopped texting, stopped living. The apartment wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to the shadow. One night, I snapped. I'd had a brutal day, failed a chem quiz, spilled espresso on a customer, nearly crashed my bike in the rain. I stormed into the apartment, slammed the door, and shouted, "What do you want from me?" The air went still, the kind of quiet that presses on your eardrums. Then, a whisper, not words, just a low, guttural hum, like wind through a broken window. It came from the hallway. My knees buckled, but anger pushed me forward. I grabbed a flashlight, my hands shaking, and crept toward the sound. The beam cut through the dark, landing on nothing but chipped paint and a crooked picture frame. But the hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest, and the shadow loomed, taller than ever, at the end of the hall. It didn't move, didn't speak, but I felt it. Rage, sorrow, something ancient and hungry. I ran to my room, locked the door, and didn't sleep. I started digging into the duplex history, desperate for answers. The library's microfilm archives were a maze of grainy newspapers, but I found it. A 1993 article about a tenant, a woman named Clara, who'd vanished from my apartment. No body, no suspects, just a missing persons report and a grainy photo of a woman with tired eyes. The article mentioned her troubled history, vague code for something darker. I tracked down the landlord's old records through a nosy neighbor, Mrs. Kessler, who chain-smoked on her porch and remembered Clara. "Strange girl," she said, exhaling a cloud of smoke. "Always talking about someone watching her." Then, poof, gone. My stomach churned. Clara's apartment was mine, same creaky floorboards, same rattling windows. The shadow grew bolder. It didn't stay in the hallway anymore. I'd wake to it standing at my bedroom door, a silhouette that seemed to shimmer, like heat rising off pavement. Once, I swore I saw eyes, hollow, glinting, not human. The rustling became words, fragmented and faint. "See me, help?" I stopped sleeping altogether, surviving on energy drinks and paranoia. I set up my phone to record at night, hoping to catch proof. The footage showed nothing but static, but the audio, God, the audio, was that same guttural hum, layered with my own whimpers. I showed it to Sam, who went pale and insisted I stay at his place. I refused. This was my fight. The breaking point came in November, during a storm that shook the duplex like a toy. I was alone, the power out, my phone at 10. The shadow was there, closer than ever, filling the doorway. The air felt thick with dread, heavy with the smell of damp wood, and something sour, like decay. The hum became a scream, not in my ears but in my head, a wail of pain and rage. I scrambled for my flashlight, my hands slick with sweat, and shouted, "Who are you? What do you want?" The scream stopped. The shadow didn't move, but I felt it, grief, raw and endless, pouring into me. My flashlight flickered, and in its dying beam, I saw her, Clara, or what was left of her. A face, gaunt and gray, eyes hollow, mouth open in a silent cry. She reached out, her fingers brushing my arm, cold as ice. I screamed, dropped the flashlight, and ran. I didn't stop until I was outside, rain soaking my clothes, my breath hitching in sobs. I stumbled to Mrs. Kessler's porch, banging on her door until she let me in, her cigarette glowing like a beacon. I told her everything, words tumbling out between gasps. She didn't laugh, didn't call me crazy. Instead, she poured me coffee and said, "Some places hold pain like a sponge." Clara never left, I think. She gave me a number for a local woman, a medium, who helped with things like this. I was desperate enough to call. The medium, a wiry woman named Lila with braids down her back, came the next day. She walked through the apartment, her hands tracing the air, muttering under her breath. "She's here," Lila said, her voice calm but firm. "Clara, she's trapped, angry, trying to be seen." Lila burned herbs, chanted, set out a small offering of bread and water. I felt silly, but the air shifted, lighter, like a storm passing. Lila looked at me, her eyes sharp. "She needed you to know she existed. You listened. That's enough." That night, the shadow didn't come. The rustling stopped. The apartment felt empty, but not in a bad way, like it was finally mine again. I moved out in December, crashing with Sam until I found a new place. The duplex was torn down a year later, replaced by a strip mall. I don't know if Clara found peace, but I hope she did. I started sleeping again, started living, though the memory of those hollow eyes still haunts me. I learned to trust my instincts, to listen when the world feels wrong. But some nights, when the wind howls and the shadows stretch too long, I wonder, was Clara warning me, or was something else watching, waiting for me to let it in? I still flinch when I hear her name, like a bruise that never heals. Growing up in a small Indiana town in the early 2000s, Sarah was my everything, my childhood friend, my confidant, the one who knew every secret I whispered under the glow of my light bright. Our neighborhood was a patchwork of cul-de-sacs and chain-link fences, where kids rode bikes until the streetlights buzzed on and the air smelled of grilled hot dogs. We were inseparable, building forts in her backyard, swapping Harry Potter books, and sneaking extra popsicles from her mom's freezer. But by the time we were 15, something shifted, like a crack in the earth you don't notice until it swallows you whole. Sarah betrayed me in a way I never saw coming, and the scars still ache when the nights grow quiet. It started in the summer of 2007, our last year of middle school. We were at that awkward age, caught between kid games and high school dreams, spending humid days at the community pool or sprawled on my bedroom floor, blasting Fall Out Boy on my old boombox. Sarah had changed that year. Her laugh was sharper, her eyes darted more, like she was chasing something I couldn't see. She started hanging out with Kyle, a senior with a lip ring and a beat-up Camaro, who'd linger outside our school, his cigarette smoke curling like a warning. I didn't like him, but Sarah was smitten, her cheeks flushing when he'd toss her a smirk. I brushed it off, told myself it was just a phase, but the air between us felt heavier, like a storm brewing behind her smile. One night, she dragged me to a party at Kyle's house, a sagging ranch-style place on the edge of town, where the grass was more weeds than lawn. I was nervous, clutching my flip phone like a lifeline, the bass from a Lil Wayne track vibrating through the walls. The living room was packed. Older kids, cheap beer, the sour tang of weed in the air. Sarah was different there, bolder, her laugh cutting through the noise as she clung to Kyle's arm. I felt like a shadow, invisible in my Gap hoodie, sipping warm soda by the kitchen counter. That's when I saw it. A Polaroid tucked under a pile of Solo cups, showing Sarah and me at the pool, laughing, our hair dripping wet. My name was scratched out in red marker, the lines angry and jagged. My stomach twisted, but when I showed Sarah, she shrugged, her eyes glassy. "It's nothing, Kaylee," she said, but her voice was too quick, like she was hiding something. After that, things got weird. Sarah started canceling plans, her texts short and vague. I'd see her with Kyle at the gas station or the mall, her head bent close to his, whispering. Once, I caught her staring at me in the school cafeteria, her eyes cold, like I was a stranger. I'd walk home alone, the familiar crunch of gravel under my sneakers now eerie, the streetlights casting shadows that seemed to follow me. At night, I'd hear taps on my window, soft, deliberate, like someone testing if I was awake. I'd check, heart pounding, but find nothing but the sway of the maple tree outside. My mom thought I was stressed about school, but it was more than that. The air felt thick with dread, like I was being watched, judged, erased. Then the messages started. Anonymous notes slipped into my backpack, written on torn notebook paper in a scrawl I didn't recognize. The first one said, "You don't belong here anymore." I found it during algebra, tucked inside my textbook, the words like a punch to the gut. I showed Sarah after class, expecting her to be as freaked out as me, but she just glanced at it and muttered, "Weird." Her nonchalance stung, and doubt crept in. Was she part of this? The notes kept coming. "Stop pretending you're special. Nobody wants you here." Each one sharper, more personal. I stopped eating lunch with Sarah, stopped calling, but the notes followed me, appearing in my locker, my gym bag, even my bedroom desk. My safe space, with its Twilight posters and stuffed panda, felt violated, like someone had been inside. I started tracking the notes, keeping them in a shoebox under my bed, searching for clues. The handwriting wasn't Sarah's, but it had her flair, the same sharp loops she used in her diary, which I'd seen 100 times. I confronted her at the park one evening, the swings creaking in the wind, the sky bruised purple. "Are you doing this?" I asked, holding up the latest note. "You'll regret staying." Her face crumpled, but her eyes flickered with something. Guilt, maybe, or defiance. "Why would I, Kaylee?" she snapped. "You're paranoid." But her hands shook, and she wouldn't meet my gaze. I walked away, my chest tight, the friendship we'd built over years cracking like thin ice. The betrayal came into focus one October night, when I followed her. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to know. She'd been sneaking out, her bedroom window left cracked open, her mom's snores covering the sound. I trailed her through the neighborhood, my sneakers silent on the damp grass, my breath visible in the chilly air. She met Kyle behind the old video store, its neon sign flickering like a dying star. I hid behind a dumpster, The smell of rotting trash sharp in my nose, and watched as they argued, their voices low but heated. Kyle handed her something. A stack of notes, identical to the ones I'd been getting. My heart sank as the truth hit. Sarah was writing them, or at least helping. But why? I didn't confront her then. I was too scared, too hurt. Instead, I dug deeper, sneaking into her room one afternoon when she was at cheer practice. Her diary was under her mattress, its pages spilling secrets. She wrote about Kyle, how he'd pressured her to prove her loyalty, how he hated me for holding her back. The notes were his idea, a way to push me out, make Sarah his alone. But her words were worse. She called me clingy, pathetic, a leech who didn't deserve her. Tears burned my eyes as I read her confession. She'd gone along with it, left the notes, even washed my house at night to scare me. The tapping on my window was her, feeding Kyle's twisted game. My best friend had turned my world into a nightmare. I was shaking when I left her house, the diary back in place, my mind a storm of rage and grief. That night, the worst note came, slipped under my front door. Leave, or you'll disappear for good. The handwriting was Kyle's, not Sarah's, and it felt like a threat carved in stone. I didn't sleep, my mind replaying every moment with Sarah, every laugh now tainted. I told my mom everything, showed her the shoebox of notes. She called the police, but they were useless, small-town cops, more interested in jaywalking than teen drama. My mom grounded me for sneaking out, but I wasn't safe. The taps on my window grew louder, more insistent, sometimes paired with a low chuckle that froze my blood. The climax came at the Halloween dance, a sweaty gym decorated with fake cobwebs and a strobe light that made everything feel like a fever dream. I went to confront Sarah, to end it. She was there with Kyle, her costume, a vampire with fake blood, too on the nose. I pulled her aside, my voice trembling but firm. I know it's you, I said, holding up the latest note. I read your diary. Why, Sarah? Her face went white, then red, her eyes darting to Kyle across the room. You don't get it, she hissed. He loves me. You're in the way. Before I could respond, Kyle was there, his hand on my arm, too tight. Back off, Kaylee, he growled, his breath sour with beer. The gym spun, the music pounding in my skull. I yanked free, but not before Sarah whispered. I'm sorry, her voice breaking. I ran, the cold air hitting me like a slap as I stumbled outside. Kyle followed, his footsteps heavy, deliberate. I hid behind the bleachers, my breath hitching, the strobe light casting his shadow long and monstrous. He called my name, his voice mocking, but I stayed silent, my phone recording. When he got close, I bolted, screaming for help. A teacher heard, pulling Kyle back, and the police were called. My recording caught enough, his threats, Sarah's sobbing confession as she ran after him. Kyle was arrested for harassment, his car full of more notes, some with worse threats. Sarah broke down, admitting everything to the cops, her loyalty to Kyle crumbling under the weight of guilt's system. Guilt. I moved out of my parents' house the day after graduation, craving freedom, but I never expected to feel so trapped. Sarah's betrayal wasn't just a wound. It was a haunting, a ghost that followed me into adulthood. We rebuilt something fragile over time, late-night texts and tearful coffee shop talks, but it's not the same. I learned to guard my heart, to trust slowly, but some nights, when the world feels too quiet, I wonder if anyone can ever truly know another person, or if betrayal is just waiting in the shadows. I still can't walk past that house without shivering, like it's watching me back. It was 2014, and I was 20, renting a basement apartment in a quiet Denver suburb, the kind of place where every lawn was manicured and porch lights buzzed like sleepy fireflies. My building was a faded yellow duplex, its paint peeling like old skin, next to a squat, gray house with overgrown ivy and a single, always locked front door. That door, rusted, weathered, with a heavy padlock, felt like a warning, a secret nobody dared to whisper. I'd moved there for college, craving independence, but the air around that house was thick with something wrong, something that clung to me like damp fog. It started small, but it ended with a truth so haunting I'll never be the same. I noticed the neighbor first because he didn't fit. Mr. Harlan, or so the mailbox said, was a shadow of a man, tall, gaunt, maybe 60, with eyes like burned-out bulbs. He'd shuffle out at dawn, always in the same threadbare coat, never speaking, never looking my way. I'd see him through my basement window, watering his dead roses, his movements mechanical, like he was performing for someone unseen. The neighborhood kids called his house the crypt, giggling about ghosts, but I dismissed it as small-town lore. I was too busy, classes, waitressing at a diner, blasting Arctic monkeys to drown out the world. But the locked door nagged at me, its silence louder than the creak of my own floorboards. It started with the noises. Late at night, when the suburb fell quiet, I'd hear thumps from next door, heavy and deliberate, like furniture dragging across wood. My apartment shared a wall with Harlan's house, and the sounds came through, muffled but insistent, sometimes paired with a faint, rhythmic tapping, like nails on glass. I'd lie in bed, my thrift store lamp casting jagged shadows, my heart pounding as I tried to rationalize it. Old houses creak, I told myself. He's just moving stuff. But the thumps grew louder, more frequent, always after midnight, always stopping when I flicked on a light. I started sleeping with my TV on, the low hum of infomercials a flimsy shield against the dread creeping into my bones. One night, I saw something. I was up late, cramming for a psych exam, my desk littered with Red Bull cans and highlighters. The thumping started, louder than usual, followed by a low, guttural hum, like someone chanting under their breath. I froze, my pen hovering over my notebook. My window faced Harlan's backyard, and through the gap in my blinds, I saw a flicker of light, not a porch bulb, but something softer, like a candle, moving behind his curtained windows. Then, a shadow, too tall, too thin, not quite human, passed across the glass. My breath caught, my skin prickling as if the room had dropped 10 degrees. I slammed my blinds shut, but the image burned into me. Something was in that house, and it wasn't just Harlan. I told my coworker, Jess, over greasy diner coffee. She was a true crime junkie, always listening to podcasts about missing persons and cold cases. That's creepy as hell, Nora, she said, her eyes wide. You should check it out. Maybe he's got a secret lab or something. I laughed it off, but her words stuck. I started watching Harlan closer, noticing how he never had visitors, never left his trash out, never unlocked that door. Once, I caught him staring at my window, his face blank, but his eyes fixed, like he knew I was there. My stomach twisted, and I started double-locking my door, checking the windows, feeling like prey in my own home. The noises escalated. The thumps became bangs, the tapping of frantic scratching, like claws on wood. One night, I woke to a sound I couldn't ignore, a low, keening wail, faint but human, coming through the wall. My heart hammered as I pressed my ear to the plaster, the cold biting my cheek. The wail stopped, replaced by that guttural hum, now clearer, almost words, stay, stay. I stumbled back, my hands shaking, my phone's flashlight beam dancing across the room. I called Jess, whispering, afraid to be heard. You need to get out, she said, her voice tight. But I couldn't afford to move, and part of me, stupid, stubborn, needed to know what was behind that door. I started digging. The library's online archives were a rabbit hole of local history, and I found a 2003 article about Harlan's house. His wife, Margaret, had died there, sudden, unexplained, ruled a heart attack despite her being only 42. The article mentioned Harlan's grief, how he'd become a recluse, but there was a photo, Margaret, smiling, her eyes kind but sad, standing in front of that locked door. My skin crawled. I asked around, cautiously at the diner. An old regular, Mr. Tate, remembered Margaret. Sweet woman, he said, stirring his coffee. But Harlan was off after she died. Kept talking about keeping her close. His words hit like a stone, and I started to wonder, was Margaret still in that house, somehow? The noises grew personal. One night, my name was whispered through the wall, Nora, soft, pleading, not Harlan's voice. I stopped sleeping, my eyes ringed with shadows, my grades slipping. I set up my phone to record at night, hoping for proof. The audio caught the wail, the hum, even my name, but the video showed nothing but my dark apartment, the shadows too thick, too alive. I showed Jess, who went pale. That's not normal, she said. You need to confront him. I didn't want to, but the fear was eating me alive. I started watching Harlan's house at night, hiding behind my blinds, seeing that candlelight flicker, the shadow move, always near that locked door. The breaking point came in December, during a snowstorm that blanketed the neighborhood in eerie silence. The noises were relentless. Bangs, scratches, that wail now a scream, sharp and desperate. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight, my phone, and a kitchen knife, my hands trembling but my resolve steel. I knocked on Harlan's door, the padlock glinting like an eye in the snow. No answer, but the noises stopped, the house holding its breath. I circled to the back, where a basement window was cracked open, the glass smeared with grime. My heart screamed to run, but I crawled through, the damp earth cold against my knees, the air inside thick with mildew, and something sweeter, like rot. The basement was a maze of boxes, old furniture, and cobwebs, lit only by my flashlight's beam. The hum was louder here, vibrating in my chest, leading me to a staircase. I climbed, each step creaking, the air growing heavier, the smell stronger. At the top was a hallway, and there it was, the locked door, not locked now, slightly ajar. My breath hitched as I pushed it open, the hinges groaning like a warning. Inside was a shrine. Candles, photos of Margaret, her clothes folded neatly, her perfume bottles lined up like offerings. In the center, a chair, and in it, Harlan, his eyes glassy, his hands clutching a locket. He didn't move, didn't blink, but the hum filled the room, coming from everywhere and nowhere. My flashlight caught something else, a mirror, and in it, not my reflection, but hers. Margaret, pale, her eyes hollow, her mouth open in a silent scream. She reached out, her fingers brushing the glass, cold air spilling into the room. I screamed, dropped the knife, and ran, the hum chasing me, her voice whispering my name. I called the police from Jess's apartment, sobbing, incoherent. They searched Harlan's house, found him catatonic, the shrine, but no body, no proof of Margaret. They called it a breakdown, took Harlan to a hospital, but the official report said nothing about the mirror, the hum, or her. Jess believed me, helped me move out the next week, my belongings stuffed into trash bags. The house was boarded up, sold to a developer, but I never went back. I learned to live with the fear, to lock my doors, to listen to the silence. But some nights, when the wind carries that sweet, rotting smell, I wonder if Margaret's still there, behind a locked door, waiting for someone to see her. I still wake up screaming, certain I'm back in that endless, twisting hallway. It was the summer of 2012, and I was 18, living in my childhood home in a sleepy Michigan suburb, where the streets smelled of fresh-cut grass, and every house had a porch swing. My room was a time capsule, One Direction posters, a lava lamp, a creaky twin bed where I'd spent countless nights dreaming of escape. I'd just graduated high school, itching to leave for college, but something held me back, something that started as a dream but became a nightmare I couldn't wake from. It wasn't just in my head, it was real, and it nearly broke me. It began with a dream, or so I thought. I'd fall asleep, my fan humming softly, and find myself in a hallway, long, dim, lined with doors that never opened. The air was thick, stale, like a basement sealed for years, and the walls were wrong, covered in peeling wallpaper that pulsed like it was breathing. I'd walk, my bare feet cold on the checkered floor, hearing whispers, my name, Lila, hissed from behind the doors. I'd try to run, but the hallway stretched, the doors multiplying, the whispers growing louder, angrier. I'd wake up gasping, my sheets soaked, my heart pounding like I'd sprinted a mile. It was just a dream, I told myself, but it came every night, each time more vivid, more suffocating. I didn't tell anyone at first. My mom was busy with her nursing shifts, my dad long gone, and my friends were too wrapped up in summer jobs and bonfires to care about my bad dreams. But the nightmares changed me. I stopped sleeping, surviving on Mountain Dew and late-night Criminal Minds reruns, my eyes bloodshot, my temper short. The hallway wasn't just in my sleep anymore. I'd catch glimpses of it, flickers at the edge of my vision, like a doorway in my bedroom wall that wasn't there before. I'd blink, and it was gone, but the air felt heavier, the house quieter, like it was listening. My lava lamp flickered without reason, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. One night, I found something. I was rummaging for my phone charger under my bed, my fingers brushing dust bunnies and old journals, when I felt it, a loose floorboard, cold and smooth. I pried it up, my nails catching on splinters, and found a small, tarnished key, its edges worn but carved with a strange symbol, like a spiral with teeth. My stomach twisted. The key felt wrong, heavy, like it carried a memory I didn't want. I hid it in my desk drawer, but that night, the dream changed. The hallway was clearer, the whispers now words. Find me. Open it. One door was different, marked with that same spiral, and the key burned in my dream pocket, urging me to use it. I woke screaming, my hands clutching my pillow, the key's weight still real in my mind. I started researching, desperate for answers. The library's archives were a maze of dusty records, but I found a 1998 article about our house. A girl, Emily, had lived here, vanished at 16, no trace, no suspects. Her photo showed a face like mine, same brown eyes, same nervous smile. The article mentioned her troubled dreams, how she'd told her parents about a hallway, a key, before she disappeared. My heart sank as I read, the pieces clicking together. I asked my mom, casually, about the house's history. She frowned, stirring her tea. The realtor mentioned a girl, I think. Sad story. What? I lied, said it was for a project, but fear clawed at me. Was Emily still here somehow? The dreams grew worse. The hallway was endless now, the doors rattling, the whispers a chorus of voices, some pleading, some furious. I'd see Emily's face in the shadows, her eyes hollow, her mouth moving without sound. The spiral door loomed larger each night, its symbol glowing, the key in my hand pulsing like a heartbeat. I'd wake with bruises on my arms, scratches I couldn't explain, my room colder than it should be. I stopped going out, stopped answering texts, my world shrinking to that hallway. My friend Tara noticed, cornering me at the diner where she worked. You look like hell, Lila, she said, sliding me a milkshake. I told her about the dreams, the key, Emily. Her face paled, but she didn't laugh. Burn the key, she said. Get out. But I couldn't. The key felt like part of me now, like letting it go would mean letting Emily go too. I started recording my sleep, setting up my webcam, hoping for proof. The footage was grainy, but chilling. Me thrashing, muttering, open it. My lamp flickering, shadows bending in ways they shouldn't. One clip showed a door, faint but real, in my bedroom wall, gone by morning. I showed Tara, who crossed herself, her voice shaking. This isn't just dreams, Lila. Something's got you. She dragged me to a thrift store psychic, Madame Rosa, who smelled of patchouli and had eyes like old coins. She held the key, her face tightening. This is a tether, she said. Something's trapped, using you to get out. Don't open that door. I nodded, but the dreams screamed louder, Emily's voice clearer. Help me. Please. The climax came during a thunderstorm, the kind that shook the house like a warning. I hadn't slept in days, my body trembling from exhaustion, my mind fraying. The dream pulled me in, stronger than ever. The hallway endless, the spiral door so close I could smell its damp wood, its iron tang. Emily stood before it, her face gaunt, her hands reaching. You have to, she whispered, her voice breaking. The key burned in my hand, and I unlocked the door, my heart screaming to stop. It swung open, revealing not a room but a void, black, endless, alive with whispers that clawed at my mind. Emily's face changed, her smile twisting, her eyes not hers anymore, but something older, hungrier. I screamed, falling back, and woke in my room, the key in my hand, real, the spiral door faint but there, etched into my wall. I ran, barefoot, through the rain, to Tara's house, the key clutched tight. She called Madame Rosa, who came with sage and salt, her chants sharp and urgent. The air in my room crackled, the door flickering, Emily's voice fading to a wail. Rosa burned the key in a metal bowl, the flames green, the smoke thick with that same damp wood smell. The door vanished, the air lightening, my chest loosening for the first time in weeks. Rosa looked at me, her eyes soft but stern. She's gone, but she wasn't alone. Be careful what you invite in. I moved out the next day, crashing with Tara, my belongings in duffel bags. The house was sold, torn down, but I never went back. I sleep better now, but the nightmares linger, less vivid but still there. I learned to guard my mind, to question what feels too real. Therapy helped, and so did Tara, but some nights, when the thunder rolls and the shadows stretch, I wonder, Was it Emily who needed help? Or something else? Using her face. Waiting for me to open the door? I still freeze when a stranger's gaze lingers too long, their smile too sharp. It was 2013, and I was 22, hitchhiking across Oregon to clear my head after a rough breakup. I'd grown up in a small town where everyone knew your name, where trust was as easy as a handshake. My backpack was stuffed with a thrift store sleeping bag, a dog-eared copy of On the Road, and a naive belief that the world was kind. I was wrong. One ride, one stranger, turned my faith into fear, and I'll never trust a stranger again. I'd been on the road for a week, thumbing rides from truckers and hippies, sleeping in fields under stars that felt like home. That day, I was outside Eugene, standing on a dusty highway shoulder, the air thick with pine and exhaust. My phone was dead, my water bottle nearly empty, but I wasn't worried. Freedom felt like enough. A pickup truck, faded red with a dented fender, slowed to a stop. The driver was a man, maybe 40, with a flannel shirt and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Need a lift?" he asked, his voice gravelly, like he'd smoked too many Camels. I hesitated, my gut whispering caution, but the sun was brutal, and Portland was still hours away. I climbed in, my backpack between my knees, telling myself it was just a ride. His name was Ray, or so he said. The truck smelled of stale coffee and something metallic, like rust or blood. A rosary dangled from the rearview mirror, swinging as we bumped along the road, and a scratched Metallica CD played low. He asked questions, where I was from, where I was headed, his eyes flicking to me too often, lingering on my worn sneakers, my frayed hoodie. I kept my answers short, my fingers tracing the pocket knife in my pack, a gift from my dad I'd never used. The highway stretched empty, the trees closing in, and the air felt heavier, like it was pressing me into the seat. "You look tired," Ray said, his smile twitching. "Got a place you can rest up ahead." My skin prickled, but I nodded, forcing a smile, telling myself I was overreacting. We pulled off the highway onto a dirt road, the kind that leads nowhere good. The trees were denser here, their branches clawing the sky, the light fading to a sickly gray. Ray's chatter stopped, his hands tight on the wheel, his jaw set. My heart thudded, my mind screaming to get out, but we were miles from anything, the road a tunnel of green and shadow. He stopped at a clearing, a sagging cabin in the distance, its windows dark, its porch littered with broken chairs. "Just need to grab something," he said, but his eyes were wrong. Too bright, too hungry. I gripped my knife, my pulse a drum in my ears, and said I'd wait outside. He shrugged, but his smile was gone, replaced by something colder. I stood by the truck, the forest unnaturally quiet, no birds, no wind, just the creak of the cabin door as Ray went inside. My gut screamed to run, but my legs felt like lead, pinned by fear and the vast emptiness around me. I noticed scratches on the truck's bed, deep and jagged, like something heavy had been dragged across it. My breath hitched as I saw a tarp, bunched up, stained with something dark. I backed away, my sneakers crunching on gravel, when I heard it, a low, muffled thump from the cabin, like a fist on wood, followed by a faint, human whimper. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a pit stop. This was a trap. I bolted, my backpack bouncing, branches snapping at my face as I ran into the woods. The thumps grew louder, faster, like footsteps chasing me, and Ray's voice cut through the silence, calm but sharp. "You can't hide, kid." I ducked behind a tree, my chest heaving, the knife shaking in my hand. The forest was a maze, the light fading, the air thick with pine and dread. I heard him closer, his boots crunching, his breath heavy, and then silence. My eyes darted, catching a flicker in the distance, not Ray, but something else, a figure, pale and thin, standing between the trees, watching me. It wasn't human, its limbs too long, its face a blur of shadow. I blinked, and it was gone, but my skin crawled, like the forest itself was alive, complicit. I ran again, my lungs burning, my mind a blur of fear and survival. I stumbled into a stream, the icy water shocking my legs, and kept going, praying for a road, a house, anything. Hours later, or maybe minutes, time was a haze. I found a gas station, its neon sign a beacon in the dark. I burst inside, sobbing, my clothes torn, and begged the clerk to call the police. They came, skeptical but kind, and drove me to the station. I told them about Ray, the truck, the cabin, the thump, the figure. They searched but found nothing. No cabin, no truck, just an empty clearing. My backpack was gone, left in the woods, my knife with it. The police called it a misadventure, said I was lucky, but their eyes said I was unhinged. I wasn't. I know what I heard, what I saw. I hitchhiked no more, took a bus home, my trust in strangers shattered. But the nightmare didn't end. Back in my apartment, a cramped studio with thrift store furniture and a flickering bulb, I started finding things, scratches on my door, a single Camel cigarette on my doorstep, a note under my pillow. You got lucky. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the weight of it was Ray's, or something worse. I installed a deadbolt, got a roommate, started therapy, but the fear lingered, a shadow that moved with me. I searched online, scouring forums for stories like mine. I found whispers of a ghost truck in Oregon, a driver who picked up hitchhikers, a cabin that vanished. Some posts mentioned a figure in the woods, not human, always watching. My stomach churned. Was Ray real, or something else? I went back to the gas station months later, needing closure. The clerk remembered me, his face grim. You're not the first, he said, lowering his voice. Folks talk about a man, a truck, a place that ain't there. Some don't come back. He handed me a photo, grainy, from a security camera, a red pickup, Ray's face blurred but unmistakable, and behind him, that figure, its eyes glinting like coins. I burned the photo, moved states, changed my number, but the memory clings like damp air. I survived, grew stronger, learned to trust my instincts. But some nights, when the wind carries the smell of pine and rust, I wonder, was Ray a man, or a mask for something older, still hunting? I still hear that voice, whispering my name, long after we fled that house. It was 2010, and I was 17, living in a creaky Victorian in a small Wisconsin town, where the streets were lined with maples, and the air smelled of wood smoke in autumn. Our home was old, with warped floors and windows that rattled like chattering teeth, but it was ours, me, my mom, my little brother Ethan, and our tabby, Muffin. We'd moved there after my dad left, hoping for a fresh start. The house felt alive, though, not with warmth but with secrets, and one night, I realized the voice calling me wasn't my family's. It wasn't even human. It started small, like most nightmares do. I'd hear footsteps at night, soft but deliberate, pacing the hallway outside my room. My mom blamed the house settling. Ethan blamed Muffin, but the cat slept curled at my feet, her purring a steady hum. The footsteps came anyway, always after midnight, always stopping at my door. I'd lie awake, my Paramore poster glowing faintly under my nightlight, my heart pounding as the doorknob twitched, never turning. I told myself it was nothing, just an old house playing tricks, but the air felt wrong, heavy, like someone was holding their breath. Then the voice came. It was a Sunday, my mom at work, Ethan at a sleepover. I was sprawled on the couch, half watching Glee reruns, when I heard it, a low, sing-song whisper from upstairs, Ava, my name, drawn out like a lullaby, but cold, unfamiliar. I froze, the remote slipping from my hand, the TV's laugh track jarring against the silence. Muffin hissed, her fur bristling, staring at the staircase. I called out, thinking it was Ethan messing with me, but the house was empty. The whisper came again, closer, from the hallway. Ava, come see. My skin crawled, my pulse a drum in my ears. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my hands shaking, and checked every room. Nothing. Just dust motes in the lamplight, and that oppressive, watching silence. I didn't tell my mom. She'd worry, maybe think I was losing it. But the voice didn't stop. It came every night, always when I was alone, always from a different part of the house, behind the walls, under the floor, once from the attic, where we never went. It wasn't my mom's warm alto or Ethan's squeaky pitch. It was soft, feminine, but wrong, like it was woven from shadows. I started sleeping with my door locked, my earbuds blasting My Chemical Romance. But the voice slipped through, calling my name, sometimes giggling, sometimes pleading. Ava, help me. My grades tanked, my friends drifted, noticing my jumpiness, my shadowed eyes. Ethan saw it too, asking why I looked like a zombie. I lied, said it was school stress, but fear was eating me alive. One night, I recorded it. I set up my flip camera, the one I used for vlogs, aiming it at my bedroom door. I barely slept, the voice louder that night, chanting my name like a prayer. The footage was chilling, static at first, then my name, clear as day, followed by a faint, childlike giggle. The door rattled, the knob turning, but it stayed locked. In the background, a shadow moved. Not mine, not Muffin's, too tall, too thin. My heart sank as I watched, my breath shallow. I showed Ethan, expecting him to laugh, but his face went pale. "That's not Mom," he whispered. "That's not us." He'd heard it too, he admitted, but thought it was his imagination. We agreed to tell Mom, but she was skeptical, blaming old pipes, suggesting we see a counselor. The voice wasn't pipes. I started digging into the house's history. The local library had a dusty archive, and I found a 1987 article about a woman, Clara, who'd lived here with her daughter, Lily. Lily, 7, had died in a fire in the attic, cause unknown. Clara moved away, broken, the house abandoned for years. The article included a photo, Lily, smiling, her eyes wide and familiar, like the voice's echo. My stomach churned. I asked our neighbor, Mrs. Lyle, a nosy widow who'd lived here forever. She lit a cigarette, her hands trembling. "Clara said Lily never left," she muttered. "Heard her singing, even after the fire." My skin prickled. Was Lily's voice calling me? The voice grew bolder. It wasn't just at night now. I'd hear it in the shower, behind the hiss of water. "Ava, stay." In the kitchen, as I made toast, it whispered from the pantry. "Don't tell." Muffin stopped eating, hiding under the couch, her eyes fixed on corners I couldn't see. Ethan started sleeping in my room, his Spider-Man sleeping bag a small comfort. One night, we both heard it, clear and close, from my closet. "Open it, Ava." The door was cracked, though I swore I'd locked it. Inside, I found scratches, fresh and deep, etched into the wood, forming that spiral symbol from my nightmares. Ethan cried, and I hugged him, my own tears falling. We weren't alone in our house. I called a priest, Father Dan, from the church Mom dragged us to on Easter. He came, skeptical but kind, his rosary clicking as he walked through the house. The air felt thicker, the voice silent but watching. He blessed the rooms, his prayers steady, but when he reached the attic door, he stopped, his face gray. "Something's here," he said, his voice low. "It's angry." He told us to leave, to stay with friends, but Mom refused, saying we couldn't afford a motel. Father Dan left us holy water and a number for a medium, but the voice laughed that night, loud and cruel, shaking the walls. "You can't make me go." The climax came during a blizzard, the kind that buried the town in white silence. Mom was stuck at the hospital, Ethan and I alone, the power flickering. The voice was everywhere, under the floor, in the walls, screaming my name like a storm. Ethan clung to me, his nails digging into my arm. The attic door, always locked, was open, a black maw at the top of the stairs. The voice called from there, not pleading now, but commanding. "Come, Ava, now." I grabbed Ethan, my phone, and a flashlight, my heart screaming to run, but something pulled me up those stairs, like a thread tied to my chest. The attic was freezing, the air thick with ash and sorrow. In the corner, a figure, small, pale, with Lily's face but eyes like voids, her dress charred. She pointed to a trunk, its lid ajar, and whispered, "See me." I opened it, my hands shaking, and found bones, small, fragile, wrapped in a singed blanket. Lily's bones, hidden all these years. I screamed, grabbing Ethan, and we ran, the house groaning like it was collapsing. The voice wailed, not angry now, but grieving, fading as we stumbled into the snow. We stayed with Mrs. Lyle, her cigarette smoke a strange comfort, and called the police. They found the bones, confirmed they were Lily's, and the case reopened. Arson, they suspected, Clara's boyfriend at the time a person of interest. The house was condemned, Mom moved us to an apartment, and the voice stopped. I learned to live again, to sleep, to trust, but some nights, when the wind howls and the shadows flicker, I wonder if Lily's at peace, or if something else spoke through her, still waiting in the dark. I still wake up gasping, certain the darkness is reaching for me. It was 2015, and I was 21, living in a rundown trailer park on the outskirts of a small Georgia town, where the air smelled of pine and motor oil, and cicadas screamed through the night. My trailer was a tin box, its walls thin, its windows drafty, but it was all I could afford, working double shifts at a Waffle House to save for college. I was alone, my family scattered after years of fights, my only company a secondhand radio playing Hosier on repeat. That night, one reckless choice turned my world inside out, breaking me in ways I'm still piecing together. I survived, but the cost haunts me, a shadow I can't outrun. It started with a dare. My coworker, Danny, was the kind of girl who thrived on chaos, tattoos, loud laughs, always pushing me to live a little. We'd been closing the diner, mopping floors under flickering fluorescence, when she mentioned the old mill a mile down the road. It was a local legend, abandoned since the 80s, its rusted machinery and boarded windows the stuff of ghost stories. Kids swore it was haunted, said they heard screams, saw lights. Danny, half drunk on cheap vodka, bet me $20 I wouldn't spend an hour inside. I was tired, broke, and stubborn, so I said yes, ignoring the knot in my gut. I grabbed my flashlight, a pocket knife, and my phone, figuring I'd snap a selfie to shut her up. The mill loomed in the moonlight, a hulking skeleton of brick and steel, its windows like empty eyes. The air was thick, humid, smelling of decay and wet moss. I pushed through a gap in the fence, my sneakers crunching on gravel, the silence heavy except for distant crickets. The door was half off its hinges, creaking as I slipped inside. My flashlight beam danced across broken beams, shattered glass, and graffiti, leaves scrawled in red paint. My heart thudded, but I laughed it off, texting Danny a middle finger emoji. I set a timer for an hour, sat on a crate, and waited, the darkness pressing against me like a living thing. Then I heard it, a low, rhythmic thump, like a heartbeat, coming from deeper in the mill. My breath caught, my flashlight shaking as I stood. Danny, I called, half hoping it was her messing with me. No answer, just the thump, steady, closer. I moved toward it, my pulse loud in my ears, the air colder, sharper, like I'd stepped into a freezer. The mill's corridors twisted, lined with rusted pipes and dangling wires, the shadows shifting as if they had weight. I found a staircase, its steps sagging, leading to a basement. The thump was louder there, joined by a faint, wet sound, like something dragging across concrete. My gut screamed to run, but my feet moved down, drawn by something I couldn't name. The basement was a maze of crates and old machinery, the air thick with dust and a sour, metallic tang. My flashlight caught something, a smear of red on the floor, fresh, glistening. My stomach lurched, my mind flashing to every true crime podcast I'd binged. I turned to leave, but the thump stopped, replaced by a voice, low and guttural, not Danny's, not human. Stay. It came from behind a stack of crates, where a faint light flickered, not my flashlight, but something else, cold and blue. I froze, my knife useless in my trembling hand, as the crates shifted, like someone, or something, was moving them. I backed away, my sneakers slipping on the slick floor, and saw it, a figure, tall, too tall, its limbs bent wrong, its face a blur of shadow and teeth. My scream stuck in my throat as I ran, the voice chasing me. You can't leave. I stumbled up the stairs, my flashlight dropping, the darkness swallowing me. The mill seemed alive, the walls groaning, the air heavy with that sour smell. I heard footsteps behind me, heavy, uneven, gaining. My phone buzzed, Danny's text, "You okay?" But I couldn't stop to answer. I burst through the door, the night air hitting me like a slap, and ran, my lungs burning, my trailer's porch light a distant beacon. I locked the door, sank to the floor, and sobbed, the voices echo still in my head. My phone showed no signal, no text sent, though Danny swore she'd messaged me. The mill was empty when I looked back. No light, no sound, just a black void under the moon. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. The trailer felt wrong, the radio crackling with static, my windows rattling even when the wind was still. I found scratches on my door, long and deep, like claws, and a smear of that same red on my porch, though I told myself it was paint. Danny came over, her bravado gone, her eyes wide when I told her what I'd seen. That place is cursed, she whispered, showing me an old forum post she'd found. A 1990s article about the mill, where a worker, Elias, had died. crushed by machinery, his body never fully recovered. Locals claimed his spirit lingered, angry, luring trespassers. I laughed, shaky, but my skin crawled. Was it a liocide scene, or something worse? The nightmare started. Every night. I was back in the mill, the figure closer, its voice clearer. You shouldn't have come. I'd wake with bruises, scratches, my sheets twisted like I'd fought something. My shifts at the Waffle House suffered. I dropped plates, forgot orders, my manager's glare sharper than the coffee burns on my hands. I set up my phone to record my sleep, desperate for proof. The footage showed me thrashing, muttering stay, and once a shadow at my window. Too tall, too wrong, gone when I rewound. I showed Danny, who dragged me to a local pastor, Reverend Cole, who listened, his face grim. Some places hold pain, he said, pressing a cross into my hand. Don't go back. But I had to know. The mill pulled me, like a hook in my chest. I went back, alone, at dusk, armed with a better flashlight and my knife, my heart a drum of fear and defiance. The mill was quieter this time, the air heavier, the red smears fresher, leading to the basement. I followed, my breath shallow, the voice whispering again, not from the crates but inside my head. Your mind? I found a door, hidden behind machinery, its lock broken, the spiral symbol from my nightmares carved into the wood. I pushed it open, my flashlight shaking, and saw it. A circle of candles, still burning, surrounding a pile of bones, human, small, not Elias's. The figure loomed, its face clearer now, not a man but a thing, its eyes glinting like oil, its mouth a gaping wound. It reached for me, its touch ice, and I screamed, slashing with my knife, the blade passing through air. I ran, the mill shaking, the voice roaring. You'll never leave. I made it out, collapsing in the grass, the mill silent behind me. I called the police, anonymous, my voice breaking. They found the bones, a child, unidentified, buried decades ago. The mill was sealed, set for demolition, but no one mentioned the figure, the candles. I moved, crashing with Danny, then renting a new place, far from that town. Therapy helped, so did time, but the nightmares linger, the scratches on my skin fading, but never gone. I survived that night, grew stronger, learned to listen to my fear, but some nights, when the cicadas scream and the shadows stretch, I wonder, was it guarding those bones, or is it still out there, waiting for me to return? I still see that doll's glass eyes staring, unblinking, in my nightmares. It was 2008, and I was 14, living in a sagging split-level house in a quiet Minnesota suburb, where the streets smelled of fresh snow and chimney smoke. My sister, Lily, was 8, all pigtails and giggles, my shadow since she could crawl. Our room was a shared sanctuary, Hannah Montana posters, a lava lamp casting pink glows, a bunk bed where we'd whisper secrets until Mom yelled to sleep. But that summer, Lily found the doll at a garage sale, and everything changed. She started whispering to it, her voice low and strange, and I realized something was wrong, terribly wrong, with that doll, and maybe with her. The doll was old, porcelain, with matted blonde curls and a faded blue dress. Its face cracked like a spiderweb. Lily named it Clara, clutching it like a lifeline, her eyes bright with a love I didn't understand. Mom thought it was cute, a phase, but I hated it. Its smile was too wide, its eyes too knowing, like it saw through me. At night, I'd hear Lily whispering, not to me, but to Clara, her voice soft, secretive, from the bottom bunk. I'd lean over, heart thudding, and see her cradling the doll, her lips moving in the dark, no sound but a faint, eerie hum. Lily, stop it. I'd hiss, but she'd ignore me, her eyes fixed on Clara's, like they shared a secret I wasn't part of. It got worse. Lily stopped playing outside, stopped watching iCarly, stopped being Lily. She'd sit in our room, cross-legged, whispering to Clara, her words too quiet to catch but heavy with intent. I'd find her drawings, crayon scribbles of a girl with no face, just black eyes, holding a doll. Mom was too busy, working doubles at the diner, to notice, but I did. I'd wake to scratches in the night, like nails on wood, coming from Lily's bunk. Once, I saw the doll's head turn, just a fraction, its glass eyes catching the lava lamp's glow. My breath caught, my skin prickling, but when I blinked, it was still, just a doll. I told myself I was imagining it, but sleep became a stranger, my nights filled with Lily's whispers and that hum, now louder, like a voice trying to form words. I tried talking to Lily, but she was different, distant, her smile brittle, her eyes darting to Clara like it was listening. "She's my friend," she'd say, clutching the doll tighter. "She needs me." I asked what she meant, but she'd clam up, her fingers tracing the doll's cracks. One night, I stole Clara while Lily slept, hiding it in the basement, behind boxes of Mom's old records. The house went quiet, too quiet, and Lily woke screaming, her voice raw, not hers. "Where is she?" Mom thought it was a tantrum, but I saw fear in Lily's eyes, not anger, like something was punishing her. I brought Clara back, and Lily hugged it, whispering apologies, her tears soaking the doll's dress. My heart sank as I realized the truth. Clara wasn't just a doll. It was something else, something holding my sister. I started digging. The garage sale was at Mrs. Ellis's house, an old widow down the street, her yard cluttered with junk. I knocked, my palms sweaty, and asked about the doll. Mrs. Ellis's face tightened, her hands twisting her apron. "That thing belonged to my aunt," she said, her voice low. "She changed after she got it. Kept talking to it, like it answered. 'Burn it, kid.'" Her words chilled me, but I pressed, and she showed me a photo. Her aunt, young, holding Clara, her eyes hollow, like Lily's now. My stomach churned. I searched online, finding forum posts about haunted dolls, stories of voices, possession, things that sounded crazy but felt too real. One post mentioned a doll like Clara, linked to a girl who vanished in the 70s, her family never the same. The whispers grew darker. Lily's voice changed, deeper, not a child's, saying things like, "Stay with me," or "You can't take her." I'd hear it from the closet, the attic, once from under my own pillow. Our room felt alive, the air thick with dread, the lava lamp flickering without reason. I found scratches on the walls, small, like a child's nails, forming spirals I hadn't seen before. Lily stopped eating, her cheeks gaunt, her eyes fixed on Clara even when she slept. Mom noticed, finally, but thought it was stress, maybe bullying. I showed her Lily's drawings, the spirals, told her about the whispers. She hugged me, promised to help, but her eyes said she didn't believe me. I was alone, watching my sister slip away. I recorded it one night, setting up my old flip camera, its red light blinking in the dark. Lily whispered to Clara, her words clear. "I'll do it. I promise." The doll's head moved. I swear. Its eyes glinting, and a shadow passed over the bunk. Not Lily's, not mine. The footage cut to static, but the audio caught a giggle, high and wrong, not my sister's. I showed Mom, who went pale, and we called a family friend, Pastor Mike, who'd helped with Mom's grief after Dad left. He came, his Bible worn, his face kind but tense. He prayed over Lily, sprinkled holy water, but the room grew colder, the hum louder, vibrating in my chest. Lily screamed, clutching Clara, her voice not hers. "She's mine." Pastor Mike flinched, whispering to Mom we needed a specialist. The climax came during a power outage, the house dark, the wind howling outside. Lily was in our room, whispering to Clara, her voice a chant, "Forever, forever." I begged Mom to take her away, but she was on the phone with a medium, her hands shaking. I grabbed Clara, my fear turning to rage, and ran to the backyard, where we'd built a fire pit for marshmallows. I threw the doll in, dousing it with lighter fluid, my hands trembling as I lit a match. The flames roared, unnatural, green and blue, the doll's face melting, its eyes popping, a scream. Not Lily's, not human, tearing through the air. Lily collapsed inside, sobbing, but her eyes cleared, her voice her own again. Mom held her, crying, as the fire died, leaving ash and a smell like burnt hair. We moved that spring to an apartment with new paint and no history. The medium, Ms. Rosa, cleansed our old house, said Clara was a vessel, tied to something old and angry, maybe the girl from the 70s. Lily recovered, slowly, her giggles returning, her drawings bright again. The police found nothing in Mrs. Ellis's records, just a sad old woman who died soon after. I burned the footage, afraid to watch it again, but I kept one of Lily's spiral drawings, a reminder. We're closer now, me and Lily, but I check her room at night, my heart catching at every shadow. I learned to protect what's mine, to trust my fear, but some nights, when the wind carries that burnt hair smell, I wonder if Clara's gone, or if something's still whispering, waiting for another child to listen.